Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Well, this is a continuation of the message of what are you willing to give up to get what you want, and what are you willing to give up for God. I needed to provide you some examples I heard in the spirit concerning this whole business of giving up stuff, okay? Some serious examples, some examples that actually have affected people's lives, okay? I'll give you some real ones as well as some fictional ones. So, picture this. An individual is with her husband. They're shopping for some homes. And she sees a home that is on flat ground. He sees a home that's up on a hill. She says, I really like this home and it has additional rooms. But he has some issues with it. He sees some things that might require some tender love and care. He also sees the proximity of where the house is next to others. And he looks at some other things along the street, and he doesn't necessarily like the fact that there's so many different ways that you could actually get to that street. There's a neighboring street down the road, another street behind that street, and then there's another street off to the right. So he has his quirks about it. But it's a beautiful home. And once again, it's on flat land. Now keep that in mind. The other home is up on a hill, the one that he likes. The wife likes it too, but not so much as the one that's on flat land. But there's a little bit more land around that house that's on the hill. And that area only has the one street that is able to, that cars are able to access, okay, as opposed to many streets all around, okay. And there's some other little cute things about it, since the person enjoys doing all sorts of activities in the backyard and thinking about the children. There's a little bit more space in the backyard as opposed to the other one, but both have backyards and all that good stuff. Okay, now you got a vision that a house is up on the hill that accommodates the man's needs, and a house that is on flat land where it accommodates the woman's needs. The man wins though, because the man is the one that makes the most money. The man is the one that, in this relationship anyway, because nowadays, of course, you know, women, there's plenty that make more money than men, but there's also still many men who make more money than women. So in this case, the man wins because he's going to be the one that's going to be footing most of the bills. Okay. Now, let's just do a bit of time travel, right? Let's speed up in time. Okay. Not that I believe in all that sort of stuff. I'm just using it as an example. But here, the man is now older. The woman is now older. And the house that they could have gotten a long time ago, had he been thinking in the future with the flat land, right? He didn't get, and now they've got to deal with steps, and they've got to deal with a bigger yard and all of that. Okay. They've also got to deal with some quirks that now that the house is older, it has its share of repairs, possibly more than the house that is down on flatland, because the one on flatland doesn't have all of the walls and all of the other things that most houses on a hill require. The foundation has to be tended to and so forth over time, right? Due to the shift in soil and all of that. Here's why this particular analogy is important. When we do things according to what we want, we don't see things often in the future. Okay? We don't have the mind of God because we decided to make a decision based on what we wanted in the now. God saw that the couple was going to get older. God saw where things could have been easier for them, but it's about what I want now. One may have been praying and operating in the spirit, and the other one may have not been even thinking about God and just thinking about his needs. And that's where you get into the unequally yoked type of stuff too, because if you're not a prayer warrior and I am a prayer warrior, we're going to have problems because you're going to hear me say stuff like, well, let's pray about this first. And I want to see what God is going to do. No, tell that man we're not signing a contract right now. Oh, you and your God. See, now there we go. There it is. And a lot of folks who are in these type of relationships are battling with their partners. Okay. And it's not just on the home front. You got some folks that are in organizations where you got half believers and the other half unbelievers. And so you've got this division between each other. Because you got one group that's like, well, let's see what God says. And the other group is saying, I'm not interested in no God and I'm tired of you guys talking about God. Okay. But if I'm doing things according to the will of God, I know that I'm not going to deal with the struggle later on. I won't have to worry about putting more money out, using up more of my time, more of my energy, and having aches, pains, and heartaches and stuff. Right? Because he knows the future. But if I'm sitting up there and I'm looking at what I want in the now, I'm not going to be able to see some of the indicators that what I want in the now isn't necessarily what I'm going to want in the future. And am I going to be too old, stubborn, and everything else to want to change? And then the very thing that I liked or loved so much might be the very thing that will hurt me later on. So yes, God, I need your intervention. Let's talk about another example. Let's think of a time where maybe we wanted something so bad and someone else wanted that same thing. But then one of us had enough sense to pray about it. And so we ended up not getting that thing. Okay? The one person is upset about it. I really wanted that. I kind of wish that I didn't even get God involved. See, now we can't get this. We can't do that. And the other person is like, well, I'm content with it. Why are you content? Because at least we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So it's just good that things went the way they went. And besides, we've got a better option, don't we? Well, I guess. Okay. There's a lot going on in that little conversation because you got the one person who's showing gratitude. They're appreciative even when they didn't get what they wanted. The other person, I wanted this, I wanted that. Now, let's say we bring a third person along and that person talks to the two people and basically says, well, you made the right decision. Oh, what? We did? The one who was doubtful, the one that wasn't all that happy. Okay. Now that the disappointing news came and all that, wasn't grateful, wasn't waiting on the Lord or anything else. Well, there was a prayer, but you get the point. Well, what happened? The folks say, and the messenger says, well, it turned out that there was a lot of problems with that particular item. And I'm telling you, we've got more complaints and callbacks and everything else on it. What? See, God is good. The one who showed grace and mercy or I should say gratefulness and all of that. God is so good. While the other one says, okay. You see, somebody needed to learn a lesson. And sometimes what happens is that people stay in that disappointment for so long because God is not working when they want him to work. They stay in that disappointment because I'm not willing to give up anything. Well, you got to give up some time. I don't want to give up any time. I want it now. You got to give up some energy. Oh, I'm too tired. Lord, please send somebody else to do that. You got to give up some money. Lord, you know this is my last 20. I'm not trying to give that to those people. You got to give up a smile. Oh, I don't feel like smiling today. Besides, I don't like her. I don't know what it is about her. I just don't like her. You got to give up your service to an organization, to a job, or what have you, in order to get to where you need to be. Well, how much are they paying? So I hope that you really understand how significant this is when it comes to the question of what are you willing to give up? I want to draw near to the Lord. The Lord says, okay, you got to listen and you got to be obedient. And there's going to be times where you're not going to get what you want. Are you willing? Are you willing to walk with me? The Christian says, sure, I'm willing. Then when the trials show up, wait a minute. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Some folks will run off from God to Satan. And Satan's going to ask the same question using his minions. What are you willing to give up? I mean, you want this opportunity, right? What are you willing to give up? And some folks have given up sex. They've given up money. They've given up power. They've given up their lives. All because they wanted whatever they wanted. Or they wanted what was promised to them only to not get what was promised to them. There's plenty of musical groups who have stories of people who promised them everything and they got nothing. Or they got a little bit. Enough for them to keep their mouths quiet. Okay? So, if you got to pick a side, of course you need to pick the side of light. You got to pick the side of righteousness and truth and honesty and transparency. And no, it may not pay as much money. Money should be the last thing that one should be looking at when it comes to opportunities. Instead, you need to be looking at how does this affect your family. Many of people went after opportunities, come on now, and didn't even consider how their family might feel in the future. All they were thinking about is, this is what is in front of me right now. I'm going to take it. And then went so far as to say that God has something to do with it, when that is not true. That's not accurate. And that is why a man's going to reap, as well as a woman is going to reap what they have sown, for saying that God told them to do something when in fact it was their flesh. Because when you already see that somebody around you has been blessed with something, rather than be greedy, rather than be that one that wants everything all to yourself, you should be willing to compromise and work with whatever you can get your hands on at that time according to God's will. And not be that one that says, I'm going to take everything and I'm going to do it all my way. And I don't care what anybody thinks, and they just better go along with the program. Because I will tell you, and I've seen it with my own eyes, that there is a humbling that takes place with a lot of folks who think like that. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. So you might have gotten what you wanted for a time, but come on, some of us know that over time you don't get it anymore. And it feels like you don't have that favor with God anymore. It feels like God's not really listening to you. Well, I didn't pray for this. I prayed for that. And God set it up so that it was going to be A, B, and C. Because you didn't humble yourself back then. You could have gotten what you really wanted if it was according to the will of God, if you would have treated people right in that particular time that you were in, during that trial, during that testing, but you didn't. So part of the punishment was that you don't get to be where you really want to be. You're going to have to suffer out here or over there, or with these people that you really don't like too much, or with a boring job, or with a job that you are being worked like a Hebrew slave. And these things happen because we step outside of the will of God, or we believe that we heard God when we really didn't hear from God. So some people say, well, how am I going to hear from God? How am I going to make sure that I'm doing something for God and not out of selfish motive, selfish gain? Good question. How do you know? Well, First of all, you're going to spend that needed time praying. You're going to look for the signs and wonders of God. The signs and wonders of God are very similar to what you see in the scriptures, where Jesus went around, for instance, and he was healing, right? It was immediate. It was smooth. It was good. There was no complications. Okay. Not only that, you'll look and you'll see for people along the way that's going to keep you on track. People that may have a cross on their neck, people that may be praying with you, people that may be giving you some information that you'll say, how did you know that that's what I was praying about? Okay. I'm not saying that everybody that got a cross around their neck is a Christian. Okay. I'm just saying that God will give you a personal sign. Okay. You may say, okay, well, Lord, I'm going to go to you and pray and ask for these things. But give me a sign. Show me that it's a woman that is wearing this, that, and the other, and she is about this high. And she, sometimes people will go to the Lord with what you call fleeces like that, where they're looking for a specific sign. Okay, it may not be a cross. It may be something peculiar around their wrist or something. But either way, you just know that it's definitely a move of God. Okay. But you are definitely waiting. You are not rushing to do anything. You are spending needed time praying, fasting, reading the Bible. The spiritual fast comes in handy when you are having a lot of problems hearing from the Lord. It's like there's static in the line. And no matter how much you sit down and you try to talk with the Lord about some things, you got some interruptions. You just can't seem to focus. So you just give up a meal. Once again, give up something. You give up a meal and just let that time be with God. I'm giving this meal up, Lord, because I really want to hear from you right now. Okay? And you can look at the benefits of spiritual fasting and fasting in general, and you'll see why people give up meals during certain periods of time. So there you have it. I wanted to provide you with some more examples. I didn't want to make the last message too long, and I hope that this has been beneficial to you. To God be the glory. Please do check the description box for anything that might be of interest. You've been listening to YouTube NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to subscribe, and if you haven't given, we do welcome donations. Thank you once again.